The ledger bled ink like a cut steer. Men waited in the yard with hats in hand, not angry yet, but near it. Wind came from the north. In the line camp office, John Hollis stood over a book that would not hold still. Figures running together. Tomorrow, he called. We settle tomorrow. Tomorrow buys no flour. A hand answered. The hay bill was entered twice, tally marks blurred by lantern light, and an ache worked behind his eyes where numbers refused to speak. On the first page, his brother Ben's name had bled. Ben went through river ice in March on a ride John sent him to make. A wagon rolled into the yard with a careful gait. A woman climbed down neat as a folded letter. Black coat, clean boots, hairpinned. She lifted 2 wooden boxes. Mr. Hollis? He nodded. I'm Anna Keene. Your notice said housekeeper wanted. I keep a house the way a rancher keeps water, by building banks. May I see the work before we speak of wages? He stood aside. She took the room with her eyes, the stove ash pan overflowing. Shelves a tumble of nails, grease, cartridges, seed packets. The ledger opened to a page of mistakes. Coin or scrip? She asked. Coin when I can. Beef when I cannot. I accept coin. If you must, beef at market rate, written. I'll need a key that fits my door. Lamp oil, paper tags, twine, vinegar, and hot water. Sundays are mine. I don't pour whiskey or dance. I sleep alone. Outside, the men began to mutter. Done, he said. The lean-to has a spare room. As for the ledger, I'll take it to town. You mean to let it whip you in public? Set the kettle. I'll look now. Her sleeves went to the elbow. Her pencil made straight lines where his had wandered. She stacked receipts and matched dates. She washed the cover with vinegar. The ink bled and then surrendered. A rider in the yard raised his voice for wages and the right to ride south to winter work. Anna lifted her head. Men wait better with tokens. We don't run a casino. We run on patience. From a flour sack, she cut squares and wrote names with small notes. Coffee, flour, tobacco. Hold them at the store against tomorrow's coins. The men keep dignity, the store keeps customers, and you keep the yard. He took the tokens out. The yard settled like a herd that has sighted water. When he came back, she had found the hay bill twice entered and underlined it in a calm hand. An arrow pointed to a receipt slipped between pages as if hidden on purpose. Your foreman writes like a man who won't be questioned, she said. He meant no. Harm. Means harm later if not checked. She closed the book. Mr. Hollis, this place isn't untidy. It is ashamed. Shame makes a muddle. Order is just courage applied to small things. Will you take the work? $30 a month, bed and hot water, and a say over anything with a label. And I will not be called girl. Housekeeper, then. For now, she said. Show me the room. He led her to the lean-to. The window faced a cottonwood. She set her boxes on the bed and opened the first. A small clock, brown paper, pins, a tin of buttons, and lemon soap. In the second were books. A Bible, an almanac, and a slim ledger that hadn't bled. You wrote housekeeper, she said, lifting the sash to let in a blade of cold. That will do until the place remembers what it can be. What is that? He asked. Alive, she said. Men forgive hunger. They don't forgive chaos. Nor does winter. She nodded north. The sky had turned to a hard color that meant a storm was approaching. He went back to the office where the book waited. Beneath Ben's smudge, he pressed a finger to the paper as if to feel ice give. Work, he told himself, is a kind of penance and a kind of prayer. He set the ledger by the window in good light. When Anna came in with her tags, they began. She labeled coffee tins and nail kegs, wrote dates and weights, made a shelf for receipts and another for promises. He fetched boxes, swept ash, carried water, glad to be told in plain words what strength was for. Dusk smudged the window. The men took their tokens to the store. The cook set beans and salt pork on the stove. Tomorrow, Anna said, closing the ledger with a motion that felt like mercy. We pay properly. Tonight we eat in peace, he believed her. Yes, ma'am. Outside, the cottonwood hummed. The storm gathered itself and listened too. Nearby. She began with names before she touched the broom. Anna lined the long table with slips of paper and wrote what the place had forgotten about itself. Coffee, 50 lbs. Nails, 10d. Twine, 2 spools. Lantern wicks, 12. She tied tags to jars that had held both sugar and screws in the same season. The men came in from the yard slowly as if a school bell had rung in a saloon. They read the labels like road signs on a trail they knew once and lost. John brought the ledger to the clear space she had made and set it down as one sets down a small child meant to sleep. He watched her list receipts in a steady hand that did not scold. This camp lately had demanded forgetting. She brought back memories. "Your cook keeps beans as if they owed him money," she said, and John smiled because it was true. Cook rattled the spoon. "I keep men from starving," he said. "Tonight you keep a first supper," Anna said. "Bread that can be sliced, coffee that is not a dare. Tomorrow I'll mark shelves. After that, the tack room." She worked from the door out the way a storm enters a valley. Pegs cleared. Ropes coiled. Oil rubbed into a hinge until it sighed and opened. The stove shone. By the door she hung a board. Promises on one side, payments on the other. Tokens pinned beneath names. The men watched without asking who had given orders. The order gave them back to themselves. A young hand named Lute, hat too big, offered to sort cartridge boxes. She put him at the task and showed him the way to stack brass that keeps count of itself. Pruitt, the foreman with round handwriting, paused by the ledger. He met Anna's eyes and cleared his throat. "Your marks will stand," she said, "and next to them I'll write the words to match." "What words?" he asked. "What each line means and when it means to be paid." She did not look away. Words make a fence. At dusk the tokens came back from town with flour dust on them, and the look of dignity returned from a trip. The storekeeper's scrawl was on the back of each, "Redeemed tomorrow." The yard, which had been a sore place, softened. They sat to supper in their shirt sleeves. Bread held its slice. Beans had onions. Coffee lifted the heart without shaking it. Talk went to the weather and the colts. John ate with hunger he had not named. Anna took the chair nearest the stove and listened more than she spoke. "Storm brewing," Lute said.
"Smell it in the nails." "Storm's work," Anna answered, "is to see who has theirs ready." Later, by lamplight, she made a calendar on brown paper and tacked it to the wall.
Payday was written neatly, and beneath it the words "fair and open." She shaded a square for Sunday. "No laundry," she said. "No errands." John brought in a wooden box he had found behind the oats barrel, the lid warped and the clasp green. "Old receipts," he said. Anna wiped the box and set it high. Something inside shifted with a dry whisper. She did not pry. Respect is part of order. She wrote "box, receipts" on a tag and tied it. John felt the question like a stone underfoot and knew the road would come back to it. When the last plate dried, she stepped to the yard. Night smelled of iron and sage. Above, the sky carried its cold the way a good man carries grief, quiet and high. She looked north and read what was written there. Not yet, but soon. "You should have a better pencil," John said behind her. He held out one he had kept for no good use, the cedar still sharp to the nose. "Thank you," she said, taking it solemnly as a gift. "I'll pay for it on Saturday." "It's given," he said. "Then it will write true." She tucked it behind her ear. "Tomorrow I'll put your tack room to rights. Harness hates neglect. It sulks and breaks. Like men," he said. "Like men," she agreed. The lamp burned low. In the corner, the wooden box whispered again. The stove clicked as iron settled. Anna closed the door to her small room and set the clock on the crate that would serve as a table. She washed her hands with lemon soap until the day's grease ran like a dark thought down the basin. Then she sat and wrote in the slim ledger that hadn't bled. "Arrived." Set order to begin. Men fed. Ledger breathing. She paused, listening to the wind weigh itself. "Names first, then brooms," she wrote, and underlined it as if it were a verse she meant to live by. Leather does not forgive a lie. Morning pushed light through the tack room cracks and showed the unkept. Saddles lay crooked. Cinches snarled. A bridle hung by a rein. Anna opened both doors to the cold and let truth in first. She set a tub, filled it with warm water, and poured vinegar. "Names," she said, and Lute brought chalk. They wrote them where leather meets bone: Dolly, Rowan, Jasper, on tags tied to cheek pieces. Peg by peg she gave each bridle a home. Lute fetched down a sweat-stiff martingale. "Oil where it bends," Anna told him. "Rub where it has been rubbed. Leather remembers kindness." Pruitt stood in the doorway. "You plan to teach the boy woman's work?" "I plan to teach ranch work. Tools feed the hand that feeds the mouth. Saddle soap isn't perfume. It's insurance." She lifted a cracked latigo. "This breaks on a cold ridge and a man walks home empty. That is not profit." Pruitt reached for a punch and set 3 new holes carefully. "Fence right after dinner," he said. "Need 2 rigs. They'll be ready and marked," Anna said. "Sign them out and hang them back the same." She had made a dispatch board from a crate lid, hooks for rigs, nails for notes. Out and in, beneath a rule, put back what you borrow. Say if it breaks. No lying to leather. John came in with his coat unbuttoned and a look that had learned to expect loss. The room had lines now. "That one," he said, touching a saddle shoved under a shelf so long its skirts had taken a curl. "Ben wrote it last." Anna set it on a stand as if moving a memory to the table. She said nothing while her hands worked. Soap, warm cloth, clean water. She mended where the stitching had given, counting in her head. 1, 2, 3, pull. John's fingers found the worn mark where a boot had worn leather during a winter wait. "Keep the ring," she said. "Stitch it back strong. Don't hide it. Things tell the truth better when we let them." He nodded. "I'll ride north pasture, salt and siding. Take Roan's bridle," she said, hooking it on his arm. "Throat latches right now. And here." She opened a small tin, tallow for cinch sores. "You think of everything," he said. "Not everything," she answered. "Enough to keep men and beasts from bleeding unnecessarily." By noon the tack room smelled clean and sure. In the office she drew 3 lines on a ledger page. Name. Hours. Pay due. On top she wrote the date and beneath it fair and open. Pruitt brought a list. Together they matched men to days, days to dollars. "Saturday on the long table," John said. "Anybody can see and question. That keeps a place from rotting," Anna said. Light and the chance to speak. She cut labels for shelves, bolts, tea, soap. She relabeled 1 tin from Misk to waiting and felt the room let out a breath. Cook came with a cut on the web of his hand. "I'll live," he said. "You will? And you'll salt the wound like a ham if I let you?" She washed it, sprinkled sugar instead, and bound it with muslin torn from a skirt hem. Sugar keeps a small hurt from training to be bigger. In the lean-to she lay out mending. 2 shirts, a towel, a pillowcase edge coming apart. She worked her needle with a farmer's patience. When John stepped in to fetch the account book, she looked up. "Hold," she said, taking his sleeve. One cuff had frayed where a man worries about cloth when he cannot say a thing. She turned the edge and stitched it under with 10 neat bites. "There," she said. "Now it won't unravel in the dark when you're cold." He stood very still. "You sew like you mean to be believed." "I do," she said. "A seam is a promise." Evening brought a hum of small talk. The north sky held iron. The board had 2 pegs empty, out for John and Pruitt, and their notes hung firm. Anna wrote on the brown paper calendar, "Tack room set. Pay ledger drawn. Cut mending. Sugar for wound." She washed her hands and stood in her doorway while the clock ticked. The wooden box on the shelf held its counsel. "Respect is part of order. Some things you open when the storm tells you who you are." She blew out the lamp and listened as the yard settled. Horses shifting, chain on the pump, a man coughing. Beyond the cottonwood, the prairie kept its long breath. She thought of the saddle ring worn by waiting boots and of the ring a woman wears by staying. "Work," she wrote in the small ledger by matchlight, "is a prayer done with both hands." Then she slept. Paper keeps its secrets until the wind insists. For 2 days the north held its breath. The cottonwood rattled faintly. Anna rose before daylight, set water to heat, and wrote the day's work on brown paper. Payday prep. Tack check. Store run. She drew a star beside store run and beneath return better pencil if found. John came in, hat in hand, and looked at the list. "We'll square at noon. I have the coins." "Good," she said. "Men stand straighter on a settled day." She climbed a stool to the high shelf where the warped box waited. Respect is part of order. She had told herself that twice. But respect also means not hiding a thing meant to be reconciled. She eased the lid. Receipts slid like dry leaves. The breath of the room changed, lamp oil and old glue. "Find something?" John asked from the door. "Paper's shedding." She smiled to make it light. "I'll sort, then we'll know what needs burying and what needs keeping." He nodded and went to the yard. Outside, Lute roped a sawhorse. Pruitt called him off and sent him to the pump. Beneath oats bills and seed orders lay a packet tied with a bootlace. The knot was square and plain. On the top paper, a graphite smear read March. The bottom had bled once. Anna did not untie. She set the packet on the table where the light told the truth better. A draft from the cracked window worried the knot. One slip worked loose. The top page lifted its corner like a bird's wing. She did not mean to read. The eye reads the way lungs breathe. Dear Ma, it said, and then told him the wrong day for crossing. The river ran high under crust, not safe. He shook his head and said, Hollis doesn't back off, Weather. If I don't write again, it's because... The wind pressed the window. The page lifted more. Anna put her hand on it gently and folded it back without looking further. Her other hand found an envelope addressed in John's square hand to Mrs. Hollis, never stamped. The flap was tucked, not sealed. On the back, in pencil, the word later. She stood a minute, feeling the weight of someone else's courage and mistake. Order is courage applied to small things. It is also the willingness to carry a heavy box to the right table. She wrapped the packet again and tied the knot with the same square it had come with. Then she wrote a tag. Letters. Hollis family private, and placed it under the ledger where John would not miss it, and she would not have to speak first. Morning rolled. She put Pruitt in charge of signing out rigs in his own hand. Lute carried sacks without tearing the corners. At 11, the men gathered like cattle to a gate. Anna set the ledger on the long table under the sign fair and open. John counted with his hat off. Coins changed hands, 6 days here, 5 there, each mark checked. The men took their pay and their dignity together. Somebody laughed for the first time in a week. When the last man had been paid, Anna poured coffee. John stayed by the table, thumb on the clean page where the ledger had turned into space. She nudged the packet into his line. What's this? He asked, though the question had lived in him before his mouth knew it. Letters turned up behind oaths, she said. They belong where you say. He lifted the packet. The knot he had tied recognized his hands and offered no fight. He did not untie. I told Ben to cross too early, he said. Ice looked right and was wrong. He went down. He set the packet back. I kept the words because sending them would fix the thing in a way I could not bear. Some things are fixed by speaking, Anna said, and her voice did not pry. Some by silence, but none by hiding. He slid the packet beneath the ledger as if truth could live under arithmetic until called. Not today. Not today, she agreed. Afternoon brought the store run, coffee, wicks, a better pencil. The sky bruised toward the ridge. On their way back, Anna showed Lute how a wagon speaks through its hubs and what to hear when wood dries too quickly. Storm will make liars of loose spokes, she said. Leather? Spokesman, Lute grinned. None forgives a lie, she said. By evening, the yard had a quiet that comes before hard weather. Anna wrote on the calendar, payday settled. Letters found, not today. She stood in her doorway and felt the camp breathe. The wind found every small crack. Behind the cottonwood, the first small snow came the way truth does. Fine, almost shy, and then sure. Truth breathes sharper when the air turns blue with cold. The cold sharpened every thought. By dawn, the snow went from suggestion to sentence. Anna swept the threshold and wrote the day's plan. Check herd count. Cover windows. No unnecessary writing. Beneath it, no lying to weather. John came in with his hat salted white and set it on the peg marked hats. Town sent word, he said. Road will vanish by noon. The men should hear it from me. They should hear more, Anna said. Truth told out loud keeps a place standing when fences go under. At noon they gathered in the long room, steam off coats, the smell of wool and coffee. The snow made the windows gray. Anna set the ledger on the table. John kept his hands on either side of it as if bracing a thing he meant at last to lift. I gave a bad order in March, he said. I sent my brother across the river ice that lay. He died because I would not walk the bank twice and doubt myself once. I kept that shame like a pocket weight, thinking it would make me careful. It made me crooked. The men stood very still. Lute stared at the floorboards. From this day, John went on, no crossing without a sounding pole and 2 witnesses. The board stays fair and open. Miss Keene's labels and rules are Hollis's rules. Argue with her and you argue with me. She lifted her chin only enough to take the room in. Respect is part of order. Receiving it is too. Cook touched a ladle to the pot. Then we'll winter like men and not like fools. John turned a clean page and wrote, Camp Clerk Anna Keene, then signed under it. Clerk will do, Anna said. I'll make you earn the word. Lute raised a hand. Miss Keene, can I be your runner? You can, she said, if you learn the sound of a rope half frozen and don't let it teach you lies. They ate standing, bread, cold beef, coffee, passed like comfort. The room lightened, though the sky outside went iron dark. When the men filed out to the bank sheds and tied tarps, John stayed. He looked at the ledger, then at the packet of letters she had tagged and left plain. "I could read them to you," he said. "You could," Anna said. She folded her hands on a chair back. "And I could tell you why I keep my ledger small. My husband died the year after we planted 2 rows of apples. Fever took him quickly and the baby was quiet inside me. The order gave me something to hold that grief could not break. That is the whole of it." He watched the snow work at the window latch. "Thank you for telling the truth about your weather," he said. "Storms don't stop for secrets," she answered. He untied the bootlace. Ben's hand showed rope under strain. John read the first lines and stopped. His mouth twitched, not with self-pity, but with the recognition a man feels when the story he has carried as penance steps into daylight and is only a story. "I sent him out proud," he said. "I will not send you out proud. If you stay because staying is sane. I stay because the work is right," she said. A gust leaned on the wall. "And because you meant that signature." He slid the letters back into their knot and into the drawer under fair and open. "When the storm passes," he said, "I'll send the words where they should have gone. I'll go to my mother and speak them aloud." "When the storm passes," Anna repeated. "Until then we keep lamps and calves." They went out together. Snow stitched the yard shut in white thread. Men moved in pairs, rope to rope, hand to shoulder. The cottonwood stood like a witness. Anna's tags held on the jars. The dispatch board had one hook bare where John's gear hung out. By dark, the windows were muffled with quilts. Anna walked the rooms, touching stoves, listening to the house speak its small truths. Enough wood, water, bread. In her notebook she wrote, midday, confession. After calm, evening, work. Before sleep she stood at her doorway and watched the snow deny the path and then make a new one where men had dragged logs sled fashion. John passed in the drift, head down, carrying a calf under his coat, small hooves dark as punctuation. He did not see her. She closed the door on a feeling like a match cupped in the hands. Wind shouldered the wall and found the cracks. She wedged a rag and said a prayer that was nothing but names. Truth had been told. The storm would have its say now. Snow took the road, then the horizon. By morning the world had one color and it was moving sideways. The yard fences rose and fell as ghosts. Anna kept the lamps low to save oil and wrote the day's line in a tight hand. Water indoors. Calves to kitchen. Ropes on men. Beneath it, a smaller rule. Speak clear. No bravery without witness. John came in with a rope around his waist and crusted lashes. North lots drifted to the top rail, he said. We'll have calves down if we don't bring them. Kitchen's ready, Anna said. She had cleared the long table, pushed it against the wall and laid old quilts in a row. Cook complains, but he will bear it. I told him calves don't judge his biscuits. Cook rattled pans. No hooves in the pie safe, he warned, which set Lute to a grin. They worked in pairs. John tied the yard door open and made a corridor of rope. Men went and returned hand to hand. Calves came in under coats, steam rising like prayer. Hooves clicked on floorboards. Anna numbered each brow with charcoal and wrote the numbers on tags for feedings. She set kettles to steam and laid warm jugs against damp ribs. Sugar and salt in the milk, she told Lute. Not more than this. A calf's belly is an argument. We win it with gentleness and heat. Snow slurred the walls. The cottonwood threw off a limb. The crack sounded like a shot. Men ducked, then laughed. At noon, the sky did not change. Anna kept a slate for hours and names, the same as for wages. Pruitt hung lanterns at every door and stitched canvas over a window where the wind had found a mouth. John checked each calf and then the men. He moved like a man who had made a promise and meant to deliver it, even if the road moved under him. When he drew a breath by the stove, Anna put a mug in his hand. You haven't sat since dawn, she said. Sittings for after, he answered, but he let his shoulders drop a fraction. The pump froze at 2. Lute came in with his fingers white as tallow. Ears next, Anna said. She warmed his hands in her pockets and scolded without heat. You don't lend pieces of yourself to weather. Weather won't return them. Yes, ma'am, he said into the wool. She wrapped his fingers with a dry cloth and sent him to carry wood, the warmest chore. Then she and John took kettles to the pump. He poured while she worked the handle in short prayers. The pump coughed, then gave. Water came thick, then clear. Don't stop, she said. and he didn't until the trough wore a lid of steam. Inside, the calves began to answer with small, stubborn sounds. A weak one kicked at the quilt and found the will to win. Anna added that number to the slate's right-hand column, which she had titled Holds. By evening, the room had a smell of life refusing. Men shed ice and took it up again. Cook set biscuits where the calves could warm the air that would later brown them. Pruitt cut breathing holes in a drift that had shouldered the east wall. When he came back, he touched the ledger with a knuckle, quick. "Wind's easing," someone said. "It's only learning our names," Anna answered. "Storms always do before they try again." Night dragged its chair close. She walked the line of calves with a lantern. Light found John's face and made plain what daylight had tucked away. The drawn look of a man who spends himself like coin. "You'll rest now," she said. 2 hours. I'll keep count." "I can stand," he said. "You can serve better after you've fallen once and gotten up," she answered. "That's the only kind of standing that lasts." He went without arguing further, which was not weakness but trust. She marked the time and stood watch. Wood, bottles, a small ear rubbed until Pink returned. The house creaked old hymns. Outside, the world talked in one long sentence of snow. When John came back, his voice had settled. Together, they wove the next hours into a rope. At the far window, the quilts bellied in and out like sails. Anna pressed a hand to them and felt the storm's slow breath changing. "Tomorrow we dig," John said, "and we count the herd by who answers us. We'll count the living first," she said. "Then we'll carry the rest without lying about the weight." He met her eyes and did not look away. Between the slate shone like a quiet truth. Somewhere a hinge popped and settled again like a heartbeat. The calves breathed steam into the quiet together. The night held, and so did they. Night hammered every latch to see which would fail. Wind returned hard. The kitchen held, calves warm, men steady. Anna wrote the night's orders on the slate. Watches in pairs. Doors barred. Tally each hour. Pruitt stood by the east entry, coat on, jaw set. "South lean-to'll collapse if I don't shore it," he said. "I'll take a sack of cake and a lantern." "You'll take a witness," Anna said. "And you'll sign the sack out." She opened the ledger to the dispatch page she had ruled. Out, in remarks. "It's a squall, not Sunday school." He reached for the latch. John caught his wrist. "We tie in or we don't go." Pruitt pulled free, near rough. "You making housekeeper rules stand over men who ride?" "I'm making ranch rules," John said. He looped the rope to Pruitt's belt and his own, short so the wind could not take them distance. "Loot with me." They went out. The bar held. Anna walked the line of quilts and bottles. One calf lay too still. She rubbed her ears, pressed a finger to a gum. The eyelid shivered. "Hold on," she told it. The east wall coughed snow through chinks. She stuffed toe and hammered sacking. Loot came back first, snow to his hatband and a limp he hadn't owned at noon. "Lean-to's half buried," he said. "Sit," Anna said, and cut his bootlace. A bruise swelled quickly. She wrapped it and made him keep the chair. A real man knows when the chair holds him. John and Pruitt came in, dragging a canvas roll. The roll held busted slats and a feed sack that hadn't belonged to the lean-to. Anna looked at it and then at Pruitt without a word. He reddened. "Aimed to stash it by the bunkhouse," he muttered. "Sell it when roads open." "Hey, don't stretch it." "Nor does trust," John said. He set the sack on the table. "You've been writing the hay bill twice. I let it pass because I was ashamed of worse." Pruitt's eyes slid toward the door. Night thumped it as if to remind them it had teeth. "Not tonight," Anna said. "Storm is the enemy we name." She wrote, "Sack, cake, ret." Pruitt, reprimand, night watch inside. She shut the book. "You'll stay under this roof and hold a lantern." Pruitt looked at John. "You letting her pen decide my job?" "I'm letting sense," John said. "Argue with her and you argue with me." They set him to windows and ropes. He worked. Near midnight, the wind held one tune. The packet of letters slept in the drawer like a live coal cupboard. Anna banked the stove and turned to find John at the doorway, snow crusted in his hair. "You should lie down," she said. 2 hours. "I'll count," he shook his head. "No, not near you." "I put your name in my book," he said. It steadied my hands. "That's work. But I am a man, and men in storms get foolish. I won't put you where rumor can carry you when this lets go. After this weather, I'll pay you out. You'll take your skill to a place with gentler mouths." Anna felt the words like a seam under a knife. She set the lantern down. "You think pushing me away will spare me?" It spares you. I chose the work. I choose to stand inside the rules I made and the mercy you signed. We are not children sent from the table when talk gets hard. Anna. He bit the name off like a thing forbidden. Mr. Hollis, she said, and the formality steadied them both. I sleep with a latch. I rise with a list. That is all. Your ledger called me a housekeeper. I accept the word until the place remembers a truer one. Tonight I'm the clerk who keeps calves alive. Send me away in daylight if you must. Not in the middle of a watch. He looked down. You carry more than your share. It's winter, she said. We all do. A thump cut through the wall. The east door had buckled its bar. Snow pushed like a shoulder. Pruitt shouted. The rope quivered off its peg. John moved first. Anna was just behind. Together, they heaved the door shut and drove a second bar across. Wind clawed and gave up. In the kitchen, 2 calves had slipped off their quilts. Anna reset them and marked the hour on the slate. Holds 7 loss. 1. She bowed her head a heartbeat for the one that hadn't made the turn. John stood in the doorway, hat in hand. You're right, he said softly. We finish the watch. Then we'll speak by daylight. By daylight, she said. Night hammered once more and moved on a little. The house breathed. So did they. All together. Dawn crawled in on its knees. The storm wore itself ragged toward morning, but it hadn't finished meaning harm. Snow had taken shape overnight. Wind carved walls, troughs, and blind corners. Anna set the slate where all eyes found it. Dig a cut to north lot. Hay sled for calves. Tie in every man. Beneath open south gate. Let wind work for us. John traced the plan with a gloved finger. We cut a lane here, he said, tapping the space between the bunkhouse and cook shed. Wind runs east. We'll bend it with the buildings and push the herd through to the cottonwood lee. Fence won't like it, Pruitt said. Fence will forgive, Anna answered. Frozen calves won't. They tore the kitchen door from its hinges for a sled and lashed hay on it thick and warm. Anna wrapped bottles in sacking and set them under quilts. Loot, she said, you run the bell. 3 pulls if you lose sight, 2 if you see a man down, 1 steady to pull mothers home. They'll follow sound when they can't trust their eyes. Loot swallowed and nodded. He tied his waist and climbed the bench, hand on the triangle iron. John set men in pairs with shovels and poles. He took the front rope to Pruitt and to the door sled. If I go, you go, he said. No hero nonsense. Understood, Pruitt said, and met his eyes in a way that admitted the night. They went out into a world that had changed the map. Snow stood where air had been. The first drift hit them like a wall of flour. They cut in. Short strokes. Men trading the lead every 30 paces while the bell set a heartbeat behind them. Wind shoved and sometimes yielded. The buildings gathered around the narrow lane, the way neighbors draw close around a grief. At the north lot, the drift had climbed higher than a man. A cow bawled from inside it, the sound thin and royal with need. John probed with the pole, found it hollow and motioned Pruitt up. They dug a mouth and then a throat. The cow rolled her eyes white and came belly to the ground, legs thrashing. Behind her lay 2 calves iced to the flank. Lift, John said. They didn't lift so much as argue with gravity until it let go. Anna slid the hay sled under the first calf and tucked the hot bottles close. She rubbed its ears and nose with salt and linen. Breathe, she told it as if breath were a shared item like bread. Pruitt took the rope and pulled while John broke trail. The sled moved, slow at first and then faster as the lane shouldered the wind aside. The bell kept time. From the lot, 3 more cows bawled and shoved at the opening that the men had made. Open the south gate, Anna called, her voice cutting flat as a knife. Let them drift to shelter. The fence can be mended. A lung cannot. A man ran to the latch, swung it, and the gate surrendered. Snow poured with the cattle, a white river with dark heads. They came in a rush that might have been a stampede if the lane hadn't bent with the wind in sight, the way Anna had written on the slate. The cottonwood took its breath and kept it. The first calf shuddered and sneezed against the bottle. Anna smiled without showing teeth. That's it, she said. Hold, the second calf lay worse. Its mouth was sugar white and still. John knelt and put his coat over it. This one's halfway gone, he said, no drama in it. Then we'll go to the other half, Anna said. She cut the bottle cord with her teeth, slid a bottle into his armpit, took the other under her skirt at the thigh and leaned in with all the heat one body owes another. Count, she said, in tens. Don't stop, they counted while the wind raked the yard. 20, 30, 40. The calf's ear twitched at 50. At 90, it kicked weakly and found the bottle as if it had been born to it a second time. Move, John said, rough with relief. They moved. Behind them, Pruitt braced at the drift mouth, body crosswise to keep it open while cows barged through. A board slid from above with the weight of a grave. He shoved Lute clear and took the blow on his shoulder. The wind snatched his hat and threw it to Kansas. Leave it, John shouted. Didn't plan to marry it, Pruitt grunted, teeth bare. He planted his boots and held. The bell beat steadily. Men passed calves hand to hand and back to the kitchen's warm breath. The lane grew sure underfoot, its walls glazed by use. Snow tried new tricks and gave up old ones. The wind bent began to fret elsewhere. Near noon, the light changed from iron to pewter. The worst anger had gone out of the weather. John stood at the mouth of the lane and counted heads in clots of steam. We'll lose some, he said. Not as many as the storm came for. Losses make a list, Anna said. So do saves. They made another run for the last of the north lot. The sled slid more easily. Mothers followed their calves' cries. Calves learned the shape of a stove. Lute's bell slowed. Cook, against all his stated rules, set biscuits on the calf quilts and fed any hand whose mouth opened near. At last, the yard held more low talk than wind. The cottonwood hummed like a thing remembering summer. Anna wrote on the slate, hand shaking a little. Holds 19. Loss 3. Fence cut south. Hurt in Lee. John looked at the torn gate and didn't flinch. We'll mend it when the thaw lets us, he said. He set his hand on the ledger table, still solid. Today we chose what to save. Anna met his eyes. There was pride in them and something steadier. We chose each other's rules, she said. He nodded once. Good rules. The wind dropped to a steady breath and then to the occasional word. Inside a calf bawled, lusty as a hymn. The day stood up. The weather leaves a bill and expects a coin. By afternoon the clouds thinned and the wind out of breath let men hear their own. Anna chalked a board. Losses. Holds, repairs, thanks. She listed 3 calves lost, 19 held, the south gate to mend, the pump to wrap, and Cook's biscuits. She printed thanks larger. John walked the yard slowly, counting out loud because he trusted the sound, then came to the long room where the ledger waited and the men had gathered. We came through, he said. We keep what the storm didn't take by telling the truth about it. Anna turned the ledger so all could see. She wrote beneath fair and open storm count and laid out the figures without drama. She noted the cut fence as necessary, the door-turned sled, and the hours each pair had kept. Lute reddened when his name was called. Pruitt kept his jaw set and his eyes level. Now the other truth, John said. He set the feed sack on the table. This was taken to be sold. The hay bill was written twice. The man who did it kept us in winter longer than the weather did. Pruitt's hands were square on the table. I watched feed go thinner than it had to, he said. I meant to stretch what we had by making my own. I carried it wrong. I can put back the coin when the trail's open? You'll put it back, John said, and you'll step down as foreman. If you stay under another man's say with a clean page and your name plain. If you ride, I'll write what is true when any man asks. Worked hard, stole small, returned it. Pruitt looked at the floor, then at thanks, then at Lute. I'll stay and shovel, he said. I'll sign the line that says I did wrong. Then sign, Anna said, and pushed the ledger with a pencil laid crosswise. He signed small, as if he knew how far a mark travels. The room exhaled. Men drifted out to the work that follows big work, the mending and sweeping that keep triumph from turning into brag. When the room was quiet, John stood with his hat off and his hands awkwardly. Miss Keene, he said, and then more simply, Anna. I told you in the storm I would pay you out and send you where words don't brew so easily, he said. That was fear talking. I don't want you gone. I want you here not as housekeeper, not even as clerk, but as partner at this table and in this weather. I'll put your name next to mine where men can read it and where it binds my days. She folded her hands to keep them from shaking. Partnership keeps accounts, she said carefully. It does, he said. A ledger has 2 columns. I can offer work that matters, a roof that will hold, and a man who speaks his faults before they grow teeth. I have a mother to face and letters to carry. After I do both, I will ask you a plainer question than partnership. Today I ask this pledge, stay and let me mean what I just said. Through the window. The yard showed itself without lies. Torn gate, tramped snow, a sled made from a door. Anna went to the ledger and wrote beneath his signature, "Camp Clerk Anna Keene, staying through thaw." "That is my pledge," she said. "When you have spoken to your mother and sent what should be sent, we'll open a new page. On that page you may ask your plain question. I will answer it after we count a few more days and find that we still write true." He breathed out as if he had been holding his breath all winter. "I can wait for a true answer." "Then we are agreed," she said. "Work now. Talk soon." They went outside because commitment is best sealed with labor. The men had started a fence line. Pruitt measured posts without taking charge. Lute rang the triangle once, not as an alarm but as a small declaration that the camp still had a voice. Under the cottonwood, Anna tied muslin to the rope where men clip on in storms, a quiet rite. John brought a chisel and squared the splintered gate edge so it would take a good hinge. "A clean cut makes a strong mend," he said. "It does," she answered. "So does a clean word." Their breath made clouds that rose straight in the calmer air. A calf bawled and was answered. The sun, pale as a worn coin, showed through. The day felt newly honest. Work waited. Inside, on the long table, the ledger lay open to the place where two names had promised to write what came next with the same hand for once. Thaw wrote its first line in water. By the third day, the drifts slumped and slid. Roofs have shed cornices. The lane Anna had ordered into the snow became a thin creek, and the cottonwood dripped as if returning a debt. She chalked the board one last time. Thanks paid. Fence mend. Letters sent. John saddled Roan with the bridle she had oiled and took the packet to town. "I'll ride slow and speak plain," he said. "I'll come back lighter or heavier, but I'll come back." "I'll keep the house breathing," Anna said, and tied his scarf with the same square knot she'd used on the letters. He returned at dusk with his hat in his hands. The look on his face was not youth, but steadiness. "Ma read every word," he said. "We cried once and spoke twice. She said a woman who makes order out of a storm earns a son." "That is kindness," Anna said. "It is true," he answered. Men mended the fence. Pruitt set posts and did not direct. Lute learned the way a rope speaks in thaw. The ledger filled with clean lines. Hours, pay, feed, all where sunlight could read them. On the brown paper calendar, the square for Sunday held its rest. One evening, as if a door had opened in the sky, meadowlarks wrote yellow music on the air. John stood with a smith's hammer by the porch, a coin on an iron plate. He turned and tapped, patient, the way a man shapes a future without breaking what he means to keep. "What are you mending?" Anna asked. "Nothing," he said. "Something I mean to start." He held up the coin, its face softened to a circle of promise. He drilled its center and filed it smooth. "A quarter buys coffee. A ring keeps its worth." At the day came to town, they hitched a wagon and drove to the church because community is part of order. Lute shone his boots with tallow. Pruitt stood near the door and did not stand in the way. John's mother met them on the steps with a touch that said both blessing and instruction. Inside, the sanctuary smelled of pine. It made the vows sound honest. At the rail, John took the ledger from under his arm. He opened it to the page where, months back, he had written Camp Clerk. Besides the word Housekeeper, he set the eraser and worked gently, as if clearing frost from a window. When the page was clean, he wrote Wife, the letters square, as if building a corral that would hold. He lifted the coin ring. "This is not fancy," he said, voice low, clear for the back bench. "It is sturdy. It will show where it's worn, and I will mend it when it needs it. I promise the same for us." Anna gave him a band braided from her hair ribbon and a thin wire from a harness that had been replaced, not stolen. "This is from work done right," she said. "I promise the same." The preacher spoke the words the country trusts. When it was done, the triangle rang once, thin and sweet. They ate in the yard at long tables. Bread held its slice. John danced with his mother and then with the woman beside him in a way that did not ask more than dignity allows. Pruitt raised a cup and said, "I will not cheat this place again." Nobody made a speech. The fence line made one running true into the distance. Toward evening, when the light did that humble thing before leaving, John and Anna went to the office. The ledger lay open to Wife. She picked up the pencil he had once given and wrote beneath their names, Home. "Do you like the word?" he asked. "I do," she said. "It asks as much as it gives." They stood quiet a while, listening to peacetime. Plates stacked, stove breathing soft, a calf bawling because life will always require tending. Then John closed the ledger with the motion that had once felt like mercy, and now felt like a prayer answered. The herd grazed quietly beyond the mended gate by the cottonwood. Out under the cottonwood, the wind moved through new leaves and made the sound of a book turned by a careful hand. Years later, they would say it was that winter when the Hollis place learned its shape. The season a widow unlabeled the jars, a rancher labeled his heart, and a ledger lost ink but kept its word. The country keeps stories like posts keep wire. This one held. And if you like true, clean frontier love told plain and brave, follow along for the next ride. More homesteads, more hope, more history stitched to the heart.